tardy girl today. I'm so sorry to keep you guys waiting. I do really try to always be on time, and it's rare, but I have a good reason. I'll share it with you if you want to know. But today we are going to start quilting a small section of this Blissful Spirits wedding ring quilt. And the quilt was created with the Westalee cutting templates, the wedding ring cutting templates. And this is just a small segment. Linda, thank you. I'm so glad to be here too. So I stayed up last night getting things ready. I thought it was ready. And this morning, about 15 or 20 minutes before we're ready to broadcast, I realized that this piece right here actually was upside down. And I want to quilt it for you, and I just couldn't leave it like that. I had to fix it. So I'm so sorry, but thank you for waiting. So what happened is, like, this black piece, instead of these being white to white like they should be, this was black and white, and this piece was rotated. So I had to rip it out, you guys. I'm so sorry. But what I'm going to do today is I want to share some really great options and ideas for how we can quilt something like this. And Westalee has some amazing tools that are going to help us do that. Now, we're not obviously going to quilt the whole thing, but we're going to quilt some parts of it. So I want to share, I'm going to be using white thread. I'm just going to tell you that right up front. That does mean that it may be sometimes a challenge to see all of the definition. So what I'll do is I'll work on trying to pick it up and put some shadow on it so that you can see the definition. Right now, what we're going to focus on is doing some ditch work right here on the outer ring and some ditch work on the inner ring. So this particular piece right here, this is a 15-inch circle. Let me see if I can bring it up a little better so I can show you the circle aspect of it here. Let's scoot this over a little bit. Ooh, I can see I got, look, I got black thread. Do you see that? Ooh, we'll have to try and get that out of there before we quilt that. But there is the circle, okay? I'm going to scoot out just a little bit. Look how big that is, right? That's a circle. And that's a 15-inch circle. And how do I know that? I know that because that is information that's in the Westalee program. But if this is the center of the circle, and I put my fabulous star of the day, which is the extended Circles on Quilt set from Westalee Design, these are going to make circles that go from 12 inches up to 18 inches. So this is set 6, and right here you can see these are the odd numbers, 13, 15, and 17. And if I were to put this right on there, right in the middle, right there, is that 15-inch circle, which would be, you know, 1/4 inch away from the edge, and I could stitch right along this right here. Now, it's quite possible that my circle is not super pretty, you know, because the fabric moves around. This has been basted on there and everything. Depending on how good my seam is, it might not be exactly correct. One of the ways that we can manage that is, it would be nice to use the pin, but it might be a little easier if we don't. So what I thought I would do is, on the outside, on the white, we're not going to quilt the black today because we're going to need a different thread color for that. But we'll work on quilting the inside here, and we're going to work on quilting this outer ring. So 15 on the outside. Who can guess what it might be on the inside? This is about 1.5 inches, give or take. Let's see. We should measure that before I lie to you. Let me see if I can get my little cheater. This is my little baby measure. Yeah, it's right about 1.5. So these extended circles are going to be able to give me pretty much everything I need. So I think they are 12.5. So let me find it. You can see the numbers, right? So we have the odds by half. These are the evens. And we could literally just stick this on there and test it right there. And notice how this is right on the inner edge. I'll just flip this a little so you can see it. See how if I lined it up right in the center, you're well into this white in the middle. So we actually need to come in just a little bit there. So let's see what we can do. What what did we say? I think I said 12.5 on the inside. Yeah, there we go, right there. So now you can see we're right in the middle. But you can see right here, this is a little bigger if I have it centered right on the pin here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna manipulate a little bit, and I'll sew, and then I'll move it, and I'll sew, and I'll move it. So for this type of style, you definitely wanna make sure that you have your stable tape grips on, because we're actually moving all of the quilt. Now this particular piece is not gigantic, it's not full size. It's more like a baby quilt. It's about 45, I guess 45 by 30. So it's not huge. So let's go ahead and start working our way. We'll do this interior section right here, and we'll come across here, and then we're also going to show you how we'll do this little melon right here. And then we have some other ideas for some fills in some different areas. Okay, so we have white polyester thread, and I've got all of my seams managed as well as I can. This is nested right here, so this is up on this side, down on this side, and all of them are like that, and all in the center right here, these are all spun. Let me see if I can just pick one up to show you. Let's see if I got any near the edge here that I could pull up. Right here. We'll just open this one so you could see it. Okay. So right there, when I put the next one in, the seam will be opened up and they'll all spin around. And all of these quarter intersections are like that. They're all very, very flat. There's not a big knot of something right in there. And that's just going to make our lives a lot easier. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to pick up right in the seam. Now on this one is valley on this interior side, right? So on this black, we have to be a little bit careful, otherwise it's going to show. I do have my glider on. I absolutely would want it on with this type of work. So let's see, my bobbin thread's still giving me trouble. Oh, it's so tiny. Of course it is, right? Because I was piecing. So annoying. All right, we'll make it longer so it'll behave. So this Blissful Spirits pattern is designed as a king size quilt, and it is available if you're interested in making it. And we did have a class, and that class is eventually going to be on the Sew Steady University. I don't think it's on there yet, but it will be. So I'm going to try to come in just a little bit closer because I'm so far away I can't actually sew. All right, this will let you see what I'm seeing. Okay, we're tightened up. Honey has left the building. He was maybe listening to me say some bad words earlier. Maybe not, but I was pretty upset because I was late. All right, so let's tack it in. We're not necessarily going to come right back to this area, so we want to make sure that we have some tacking stitches. And remember what we said, 12.5. So let's just put it on there, 12.5. And it should fit pretty nicely right here. One of the ways that we can make sure that we have it aligned pretty nice is our handy dandy spacing gauge, right? So let's just put this on here. And if we need to kind of massage the quilt a little bit, and we may not be able to sew all the way. We may only be able to sew a little ways at a time. So we're just going to ditch that right there. And then I'm going to adjust and keep my 1/4 inch as I go. Try to get right in my ditch. So sometimes it looks like the ditch is going to be a little neater than others. I'm not too much of a perfectionist, so I'm just going to go with it. I'm just going to let it be what it wants to be. And I'll just keep manipulating a little bit. We do want to let you see, so I might be shifting the quilt a little bit so that you can see. Right here, you see we've got that 1/4 inch. So I'm sewing on the low side. This white is actually the seam on this side, so the gray here is the low side. And I do think that when you ditch on the low side, it hides much better. So we're just going to keep doing that. And as it starts getting a little tight, I can see that the 1/4 inch is kind of narrowed out right here. So I'll just adjust this. And if I can't go all the way, like there's a little bulge right there, I'll just go until I finish out that part, and then see how it's wider now? Then I'll just pivot a little bit so I can get that 1/4 inch back. So I'm not in too big of a hurry. I want the quilt to look pretty, and you know, I've spent a lot of time piecing it, so I'm not in a big hurry to have it not look good when I get finished. So right here, we've got black, and we're using white thread. So I'm going to show you, we want to be extra careful right here in this area. We want to really get tight to this white ditch right there. So I'm just going to sew a little bit slowly, try to get myself right in the ditch. When you can get right in the ditch like that, it's going to hide so much better. And I can even just put a little pull with my finger. So right here, I'm just pulling this fabric a tiny bit to make sure that it is right in the ditch. So let me show you that black and white real quick, because I think that's worth seeing actually. So let's see if we can just get in there a little more. Sometimes if I try to make it bigger, it just does crazy stuff, and I don't want to lose our feed like we have in the past. But can you kind of get in there? You see that? So the white edge is right there. It's just hiding right against this edge. And because this seam is over top, it's going to hide that pretty well, even with white on black. So totally worth doing. You don't always have to change your thread every minute, every time. It's going to look really good. Okay, so let's tighten our camera back up. Am I supporting the quilt? So I just saw that I had a question, so I'm going to try to scroll back to that real fast. Let's see. Can you ask your question again? I'm supporting the quilt. This is the end of it right here. So I don't really have to hold it in my lap right now. It's actually supported up here on the Sew Steady table. And then I actually have a big table, so there is a little gap from my Sew Steady table to my, quilt surface. But I've got most of the quilt up here right now, and then as I maneuver, then I'll just keep managing this fullness to make sure that it's still up on the rest of the quilt. So let's go ahead and show you where we're at. We'll just scoop this over so we can manipulate it a little bit more. Okay, so same thing. If I was putting that pin in, it would be a lot more difficult for me to manipulate to have the circle wherever I wanted. So right now, if I want to go this way, or I can go this way. This is the inside at 15. Let's bring the camera down just a little bit more so you can see. Right, this is the line that we just sewed, which means this line would continue. So we can sew this outer edge, or I can change directions and I can sew that. So let's just go ahead, we'll kind of continue on this line and ditch all the way around this circle as much as we can. Okay, and I'll adjust my quilt just like you would at home, is making sure that you've got everybody. And let's feel where our ditch is. So right here, the ditch is on the blue. And right when we get to this position, the white, it's going to be on the inside, right? So we'll sew just to the very edge right there of the blue, and then we'll transition to the other side. So I'm going to grab my spacing gauge. So I'm going to measure from that inner side, right? Because we want to make sure we're ditching on the inside of the white. So there's a little crossover right there as we went from the outside to the inside of the ditch. And I can manipulate just a tiny bit. You see I might be kind of pushing the edge of that ruler a little bit as I need to manipulate. So you should feel free to do that whenever you need to. And within one stitch, I'm going to be on the outside, and I'm right on the outside of the white now. And now I can start quilting that on this side. So it looks like it's got a little dip right there. So I'm going to just follow the ditch. You can see, look how tight it is right there. There's no 1/4 inch, but I'm still right on the seam. And what I'll do is I'll just open it a little bit as I go to get in the ditch. Because it had sort of like a little fabric dip down. And this way I'm controlling that visually. I'm actually looking right at it. And if I can do a little bit of a longer line, I will. If the ditch will align, then I can just sew a little bit further. But if it's got some kind of weird, waffle in the seam, that's when I'm going to make sure. So let me turn it just a little so you can see some more. So again, I think this one looks pretty smooth. It's got a nice 1/4 inch right on the inside. So I think I can just trust the ruler, and I'll just sew a little further. And then it looks like it's narrowing out, but I'm getting right down to this little edge right there. So this is the real deal. You know, we're quilting an actual quilt, the real thing. And this is what I would do. I would absolutely want to ditch all of the rings in this quilt. I really think that that's important because it makes them show so much better. This is a really big part of what the quilt is all about in terms of the circular nature of it, and the rings are the most defining characteristic. So I would never want to ignore them and pretend that, you know, they're not important. So by ditching them, you're really going to make all the fabric on the inside of the ring be lifted up, and you're also going to separate these two areas. So let's see where we're at on our circle. Let's see how far we've gone. I have like this big thread over here that's just hanging out. I don't know what he's attached to, something. Let's cut him because he's in my way. Where's my scissors? This quilt is so much bigger, so he's taking up a lot of what I normally think of as my workspace. So you're going to see I'm going to be jumping around. Actually, I'm just so happy right now that I'm quilting. I was like stressed out like you would not believe, and I was just frazzled and had to sew it wrong another time and then rip it out again. And now that I'm quilting, I just feel like I have Zen going on. It's all back to normal. Quilting makes it all better. All right, so let's keep going and always checking right here. So again, I'm ditching across this black, and then this is actually all on the inside right here. So I like it to be exactly as much as I can in that ditch. Don't forget to check that. You're going to see that you'll get a much better, prettier look if we can. So I think I'll take 1 or 2 stitches to get down to that black so I could line this up a little better. So I think I can only stitch a little ways right here because I don't want to get away from my ditch. And there we go. And then now we should be good. I think those little corner guys are tricky. They are always misbehaving. That's because they have a lot of bias on 2 sides. So the quilt's already heavy. Do you want to trim those threads? Oh, yes, I do. You're right. You just saw that. Who said that? Let's just pull these up and just get those out, because otherwise it's just going to make our life miserable. We don't want those threads in there, right? So that's something important that you want to do if you have black and white, you know, in your seam. So I'm just going to reach my hand under there and just pray that it's all going to work out. So I got my scissors and I can just pull it up. So this lets me tell you I did spray base this. I sprayed it outside. Those threads were really, really visible. And all I'm going to do, I think, is just move them to the black side. I'm going to move them to the dark side. All right, and let's see, did I get them all? Let's kind of check. One more, he's just hanging out right there. I can see him. Whoever said that, I thank you for reminding me, because I was going to start quilting somewhere else. Oh, there's even a red one. There's a little red thread. That's because I had my quilt on the floor, and now there's like all kinds of little different colored threads everywhere in there. I just want to get that red one out. See? Look at, he's red. I did spray baste. Donna Dean, I love spray basting. It's my favorite. I used to do it all the time, but I haven't had to do it as much now because if I'm doing a larger quilt, I do have a long arm, so I don't need that as much anymore. So we've got those out, and I'm kind of doing my little color check. And especially with white, if you can just kind of do this, this will kind of make sure that you see the real deal. Because this one is just, you know, a sample for work, a work sample, you know, so that you can see it. It's actually a piece of the Blissful Spirits, but it's not a very big piece. It's just a small one. So let's quilt a little bit more. We're just going to try to get around this circle. And the benefit to you as the viewer on your side is that lets you see that we don't have to turn this quilt, because we can literally just quilt in a circle and we don't have to turn that quilt. We're just going to keep going, try to get right around the ditch. As the quilt gets heavy, I'm going to scoot in closer. Ooh, sorry, I bumped you. It's because now my quilt has got all kinds of stuff going on. Let's see if we can get in a little up in our camera work so we can raise it up a little. I gotta turn this so it'll go the way I want. There we go. Now we can get it up a little bit. Is that better? All right, so let's turn it. Here we go. So as you're watching, are you just saying like, oh yeah, this is the real deal, right? Because when you quilt a real quilt, it's just like that, right? You have to sew a little bit, and then you have to manipulate it a little bit, and then you have to sew a little bit, just like for reals. It's a lot harder when you're doing a bigger quilt. It's not the same as when you're doing a little square. And that's okay. That's okay. So again, I'm going across this black, which is going to be on the valley side. So we'll just go a little slow, make sure we're going to get a nice right in the ditch right there. And then right on this side, I'm still on the black, darn it. But that's okay, we're just going to do it. I think that when you stitch in the ditch, if you do it well, you can even hide white on black. It's going to be okay. So as I go, I do feel like I have to adjust the fabric because it's definitely heavy. And I've got a pretty thick batting. I've got Dream Cotton Request Loft, so it is very thick, thicker than normal. You're gonna see it? It's pretty thick. I'm gonna show you. Look at that, it's awesome. But what I like about that is that's gonna help really create a lot of good definition. So I've got my quilt lined up on this side, and I've got that 1/4 inch. That's where I've measured it from. Don't sew out of the edge, just move the ruler and get it realigned. Okay. So I love that for ditching. So you can really see, even with the curve, it's going to let me really get that little fuzzy off of there. He's in your way. Down, boy. All right, and we're almost around the circle. So we'll just do one. We're not going to do like every single little thing, but I just wanted to kind of let you enter into this with me and let you see some of the real deal. You know, you're actually quilting a quilt and we're not pretending, and then we don't have this little baby piece. So right here, as we go across, the ditch is still on the black side all the way to this position. So I'll line it up right there and try to get right into the ditch, right across that black, nice and slow. And does it matter if I mess up? Actually, no, because I've got white thread, so it will really hide really well. So we'll just, right in that ditch, I'm just put those tacking stitches in there. Okay? And then let's go ahead, we'll cut that. All right, let's cut some threads and then we'll kind of show you what we've got there. All right, so that circle now is fully ditched on the outside. And remember what we said, that was the 12. So I'll let you see the color. So there's the white right there, right? And once we wash it and the quilt has a little bit of movement, this will hide pretty well. And I'm not worried about, honestly, if it doesn't. It's stitching that is there and people know that it's there. So, you know, this is not going into the show. This is just for me and I'm happy with it. So let's do one more little piece, and I want to show you on the inside how we would ditch the melon. So the melon here is that intersecting circle. It would go this opposite way. So I would try to ditch those as the circle, so that way you can get the full value right there. You could go all the way along. So let's see if we can set this up in the most easy to sew way. I think if we go this way, that'll be the easiest. We can just push forward and we'll get all the way. So the quilt's in my lap, so you'll definitely see that. And we'll just do this right here. And I think I'll come back in with the black. I don't want to deal with it. I want it to be just on the white for now, so I'll just start right here. So then here's the question. Nobody's asked this yet, but I'm going to share it. If I do it with black thread on the top, what happens on the back? Anybody know? No, I'm not going to do that. It's going to be white. All thread on the back is going to be white for sure. So I might have to maybe put a gray in there, or I might have to adjust my tension really carefully. But let's go ahead and get all of our bulk up on the table, just like we talked about. And then let's do this part of this circle, and then we'll just do something else after that. What did we say? 12 and a half. Somehow the 12 and a half isn't on the top anymore. There he is. So I want to make sure that my grips are down, so this way I'll be sewing in, right? That's opposite from what we did before, but it won't matter. It's all going to work out. Measure from the side that is your low side, so the white is the ditch side for this, okay? So we'll just start sewing. And as I see that my needle is really close to the edge, then I'll just bring this out a little bit more and adjust that position. Let's see, I gotta push up a little bit. Here we go. Okay. I'm gonna adjust my tension too, because it looks a little looser than I want. Okay, so I'm touching here on the bottom, and I'm using that spacing gauge. The longest line that I can get here with this arc, the better, because what that'll mean is that the arc will be a little bit smoother. Every time that I start and stop, that'll make it a little bit more choppy. So if I can get a longer line, I will. I'll try to do that as much as possible. So on the black right here, this is pressed in this direction, so I'm going to go right along the black, right inside that green. So we'll measure on this side, because that's the ditch side, and then I would also follow on that side with the ruler. Okay, so I'm going to sew on this side because I have better control whichever side that I'm on. Okay, and right to the white. And then we'll adjust just a little bit more so we can put the rest of this arc in. So now we're going to be on the opposite side. So for some reason, those little corners flatten out a little bit more than the rest of the quilt. So I feel like I need to really slow down and adjust through those. I don't seem like I've got as good of a curvature on them as they're supposed to have. They are a little flatter than the rest of the arc. So we'll just keep going. Try to get in as much as I can. And then here we'll try to see if we can get as much of this arc as possible. It's a little bit of smushing, a little bit of canting the ruler as I go, and that will help me make a really pretty ditch right there. There's a little bubble right here, I can tell. So I'll just get to where that bubble ends, and then I'll level out the ruler to get all the way through the curve. So I'm right on this last little bit of white, and the white is the mountain and the orange is the valley. So we'll just adjust a little bit so we're closer to the white. And then we're right there on the edge. So I'm going to ask Honey if he can just check through real quick, see if we have any questions from people, if they want to know anything as we're going.
So Sandy asked if you could show a close-up of the ditching.
Yeah. So let's see. Right there. You see that? So that still looks a little loose to me. But you're on the inside, right? Because see how the yellow is the top right there and the purple is the top, right? And right here we ditched right across there. And then, as we said, you know, that's the green right there. There's the ditch right in between the black and the green. And it doesn't scream white to me. You know, it screams that it's hidden because this is up above, kind of shadows that white right there. So just manipulating that a little bit at a time. There's my ditching. So this one's not quite as tight as some of them. You can see some are really, really tight to the edge right there, and some of them are not. So we'll try to get in and just kind of give you a good view. But
and Donna asked if you used 505 for your spray base.
Donna, I think Donna Dean, right? Yes, I used
Scroll faster, I'm sorry.
505. I did. I absolutely did. I love it. I think it washes up easily. That's why I like it. I've used some other things and I just don't feel like they wash up as nicely. So I have one area of the quilt where the interior is all white, right here. And we're going to put a fun little design in here. So let me get, I see a little red thread again. Those darn red threads, they're driving me crazy. Right there, see? Look at that. Let's get that out of there. Any colored threads under my white, they gotta go. I see one more, he's hiding. Right there. And the reason that I've got so many of those different colors in there is because this is a scrap quilt. So there's all kinds of different colored threads in there. So here, I wanted to show you, you can look really close and you'll be able to see that we have a spun seam. Can you see, like this one goes this way, that one goes that way, that one goes that way, and that one goes that way. So this is very flat right there. If I had a bulky seam, it would be hard to do something like a Spinifex right in that spot. But because we have a spun seam on every seam, it's not just here, it's on every single one. So right here, this is a spun seam. The next one right there with these going around, every single one is spun to make it as flat as possible. So because we have all white right here, and we're using white thread, what I thought I would do is, I think the Spinifex number 11 is going to be perfect for this space. And we don't even need any markings on our white because we have our seam line, which will let us align it really beautifully. All right, so here it is, Spinifex number 11. This is the 9.5 size. This is the same size that's available in the Quilt in a Bag, and it is an absolutely beautiful design. So I've got my little pull tab right there. We'll just pull that out. Oh, I guess we didn't need to. I'm such an idiot. I feel like I've got it today. I got the creative mind's going. Let's go ahead and we'll pull up our needle right here in the center, and we'll get the ruler in before we put the needle down. All right, so let's put that in. And we'll set our needle right there in the center. The reason I chose this design is it's going to give some fun crossover in the center, and then it's very narrow out at the bottom. So if I line it up right here, you'll see that it's going to narrow out just like my space does right there. So if you see that, see how perfectly that's going to fit right there? And that is exactly what I want. It's going to have a really pretty design right in the middle, but it's going to follow the narrowing out, and it almost reaches all the way out, but not quite. And I actually like that better. I don't want it to really crowd the space, but it should fit really nicely right there. So right to the center, all the way down, and then we'll come back up. So I'm right in the center, and I can check my position. Because it's white, it won't be that noticeable if we're off, but of course we want to try to align it as best we can. I've got my center mark right there. As I'm going up to the tip, I'm going to just make sure I keep all of those nicely aligned. Nice and smooth. The Sew Steady table and that glider is just helping everybody move despite the weight. And then we'll go ahead and we'll do it backwards. The quilt's a little too big, right, for me to be trying to spin it around. So this would be that Fitbit moment where you could stand up and you could look behind and make sure that you're lined up. There is a center line right here that's on the ruler, and there's a center line on the other. Giselle, this is the Spinifex number 11. The size is 9.5 inches. The shape of it looks just like this. This one's smaller, but this is also the Spinifex number 11. So you can see right there. Isn't that cute? What a pretty size. So the pointy end is going out into this skinnier area. And I'm going to just stand up. I'm going to line up my ruler right back there by looking back behind there and getting everybody in place. And now I'm just going to trust that the ruler is going to bring me where I need to go. So there's just a little tiny bit of overlap right there. The quilt's getting heavy, so I'm going to reach back here and pull it up onto the table. It was pulling, so I don't want it to affect my stitches. I want it to still have a nice, pretty stitch. I'm right up into the tip, and now I've changed directions. And I'm coming right back to my center. When I come in, I'm just going to kind of look right in there, make sure I'm actually in the center, and that everything really, really is aligned nicely. So again, I want to keep this up here, but I obviously need room to line it up. So we'll get it right on there. And we're lining up the center line right there on the seam right here. Oh, do you guys see what's happening? What's happening? Can you tell? I'm about to do a disaster. What? There we go. So look right here. When I just lined this up, I just had this lined up, and as I looked at it, I was like, what happened? That's going to sew into my ring right there. Look at right there. That's how I knew. Don't quilt that, right? Whoever said that, don't quilt that. I agree with you. Fix it now. You don't want to be ripping later. No more bonbon time. I'm on a diet. Okay, so again, I get a little tiny overlap right here. And I've got myself lined up right in the center, and now it's going to fit beautifully. So now we can just make the whole quilt come with me. I'm not trying to rush anything. It is heavy, so I am actually pushing, and I'm just going to hold this in place and just make sure I got all of the bulk up here and nobody's trapped on any of the edges. And now we'll sew back into the center. So right to the center, and right when I get in the center, this is where I can do some ditching. So I'll just go ahead and do some of that micro tacking. I've got a lot of stitching right in the center, so I can hide that pretty easily. And then we'll take it out and show you what it looks like. Scissor time. Oh, quilting makes everything better. I feel like my heart was racing so much earlier, and now I'm all calm. It's good. Quilting, it makes everything better. It's good medicine. Okay, let's pull it up and make sure we got everybody cut, all of our threads cut. And I will show you. I just think this is a really pretty design that will fit in here really nicely. Now I'm going to embellish it some more. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do, but I will go ahead and put some other things in there. So let me tip it so I can show you and give you the shadow. It's hard to see it on white. There we go. So we'll just come out a little bit. Really a nice pretty fit right there. And the reason that I pulled out my other one, my smaller one, is this is a lot of open space right here. And one of the things that might be nice with the other one is I can just put a little echo in here with the smaller one, and then that would be a really nice fill. So the smaller size that I have, this is the 5.5. And the way you can test that and see, will you like the spacing, just lay it on there and see what kind of echo you're going to get. And I think we're going to get a beautiful, it's a little bit more than a 1/2 inch, but it's going to fill in this space pretty nicely, and it's probably going to echo really close to the line that's already there. So let's just put that in since we can. We'll add that. And then I have another design after that we're going to share that I think is going to look really cute on this. So if I was going to do this, I would next time not cut my thread, but I just wanted to show that to you. Obviously you can leave your needle in and then you just keep sewing. Okay, so I'll get it right in the center. Now this template is a little smaller. The other one is quite big, so there's a lot of grips holding everything, but this quilt is heavy. So when we do this one, we want to make sure that all of the quilt is supported, because these grips are so close together, they may not be enough to give us all of the support that we need. So let me get lined up. So I'm right in the center right here, and I can see that I'll get another little echo maybe. I think it'll still give me another echo just outside the one that we already have. So there'll be a little extra stitching right near the center, but I'm okay with that. Okay, same thing, just make sure I have all of that weight supported. I'm lined up right on the center seam because that's really the biggest, most visible piece of what we're doing. That'll help us line up the points on the bottom with these new ones that we're adding. Okay, and we'll just move those threads out of the way. So really activating all those grips to make sure that I get the whole quilt sandwich to come with me. And checking my center position. I think I went a little awry on that last one, but I'll put it right in the center. And then let's pick up these threads right here, get them out of our way. There we go. Okay, and same thing, just like we did before, I'm going to kind of stand up a little bit. Make sure that my center line of the template is lined right up on the center line. That allows me to look back behind there and just make sure that that's aligned. The quilt's just a little too hard to manipulate. We don't really want to rotate it and turn it around. That's the whole beauty of rulers, that we don't have to do that. So then I'll just look back behind there and trust that the ruler is bringing me to the correct position. And then we'll come right back in. And I'm going to pull this thread right there that's in the way, because I think I'm going to sew right through him, darn it. Okay, and let's go ahead and we'll tack this off, and I'll just show you what we're going to get. It's going to look awesome. Oh, I love it, you guys. It looks so pretty. Having that little bit of extra density right there, a little bit of extra quilting over what we had before. Wait till you see it. I think it looks amazing. It's going to be very, very pretty center for this. All right, so we just used the Spinifex number 11. We used 2 different sizes, and I'll just pull it up and show you what we've got. Doesn't that look so pretty? And now this is not ditched right here, but remember, we are going to ditch this entire area. So right here, this will puff, and then you'll have compression right here around this curvature to really outline this. So there'll be a little breathing space right here, but you'll get a nice clean look as we ditch it. So all right, so there you go. So that's this part. So let me show you one other idea that I have that is not really appropriate for this space, but I'm going to show you it out on the edge right here. Let's see, we got to find where we can do it. I only want to do it on the white part, so I don't want to do it on the black because I have a different idea for the black. So let's do it on the end right here. And we'll do it on this colored section right there. So let me just cut these threads, get these out of here. Now we need to ditch it first, so we'll go back and we'll get that ditch ruler, which was the 12.5, because we didn't ditch the outside right here. And then I'm going to put my little other idea right here on top of that. So we want to ditch first because we need to stabilize the circle before we do that. So we'll start right up here in the center, and we're going to ditch out. And then as we come back in, I won't pick up my needle or anything. We're just going to come back in the other way. Let me show you a little tip really quickly. I see, you know, there's some color bleed right there. And what that is the blue right there is sticking out. So let me show you. Can you see it? Right there? Right there, see that? If this bothers you, which I am okay with it for today, you know, this quilt is a working sample, right? And it doesn't have to be perfect. But if that bothers you, I mean, the white is pressed over it. So what you can do to get rid of something like that, like if your perfection quotient is really, you know, you need it to be perfect, let's just pull this up a little bit. And this is the 1/4 inch seam right here. And what you can do is you can just come in with your scissors. You're going to grade just the blue, not the white. So the red and the blue right there, just grade it a little bit. Okay. And then let's see if we can see it. I think we need to grade it just a tiny bit more. So we'll just do it a little bit more, very little. But what we're doing is we're making the white be the top. So that double layer of white is what's going to show underneath there. And then you have that layer on top of the blue. So that's going to hide that a little better. So you can see now we don't have quite as visible of that blue right there where we graded it right there. Whereas you can see the red is not graded, but the blue now is hiding. So that's just something for you to think about. I don't need it to be perfect, but I understand that a lot of times that's important. And so that's just a way that you can sort of hide that, is put the seam that's on the underside and make that a little narrower, and that will help to bridge that gap. Okay, so let's start in the corner. Uh-oh, I did not cut my thread, apparently. Guess I didn't pull that bobbin thread up all the way. That is so strange. I swear I thought I did that already, but it doesn't want to come up. Okay, so I got my bobbin thread. Let's get ourselves set and then we'll get stitching. So I'll put a few tacking stitches right there. Okay, and then we'll get our quilt resituated. And we're going to sew out, and we'll do this outer ditch right there. And I think that's the one that we said was the outside. So that's the 15-inch circle. So let's find that. So the inside one is the one that is the 12.5, and then the outside one is the 15, just for your knowledge. So you can see it's pretty good. And again, you can see that for some reason, these outer ones tend to have a little bit of flattening. So I'm going to just, maybe I'm going to just sew right down there. Let's see if I can use the edge right there, because it's really flat. Look at that. So I'll just let it do what it's going to do. I'll flat right until I get into the curve right there, and then I'll put it on. Okay, so let your quilt tell you what it needs. We don't always have to control everything. The quilt can control some things too. So we're going to be inside the ditch right there, on the inside of the curvature. So I'll manipulate it just a little bit. And then I can see it's getting wider right there. So we'll adjust that. Oh, you guys, my 2-finger safety rule. Don't do that at home. Don't sew outside the channel. I don't know, I got a little overexcited. I was just quilting away. All right, let's go. We'll keep going. That's bonbon time. I'll fix it later. So again, I'm going to keep my own advice this time. Make sure I don't sew off the end. Okay, check my 1/4 inch. I got a nice 1/4 inch. I'm compressing on that side, touching the ruler foot to that side because that's where my ditch is. And then we'll just keep going. Now on this, I can just go right off of the end, right? Because on this, it's going to be in the seam allowance right here. So as I sew, I would just keep this aligned and just sew right off the edge. Then you're kind of just going to baste your edge a little bit, right? All right, so let's show you what we're going to do next. So we want to put in a little space, a little space around the outside of this guy right here. Okay, so now I can actually use the pin for this next part because I have nothing in my way right here. So I'm going to sew all the way down to the white right here, and I'm going to put a channel in there. So I'm going to put my pin in right at that intersection right there, because then the pin will allow me to sew my echo right in this space right there. Okay. So I'll put it through, right through the center. And I can actually even see it because I have stitching right there already. But let me see, I'm going to have to get underneath the quilt here. Flip it over a little bit. Yeah, right there. It's a little bit of work, huh? Getting it in there. I'm struggling to get it into the right spot. I think it had it in the wrong place. All right, let's see if we can do it. I might have to take it out. So you can see this would be a little challenging, right, if we were trying to do this on my big quilt all the time. But that's okay. It's all going to work out. Let's see, right there. All right, so I've got my pin in. Let's put it up on the sewing machine. And let's make sure that our little tail is long enough for us to pick up. There we go. All right. All right, let's put that echo in. So I'm thinking that 16.5 might be a good echo. So let's test it, because what I want is I want something wide enough to put a little 1/2 inch circle in there. So let's see what we can do. Oh, did I put it in the wrong spot? Darn it, I sure did. It's got to go on this side. Oh, darn it. Well, all right, let's try it. Hopefully I'll put it in the right spot over here. That's a good lesson, right? Make sure you line it up before you put your pin in so you know that you're going to be going the right direction. All right. Here we go. So let me show you what we're looking for. I want to sew something right outside of this channel. So right here, this is a 1/4 inch echo. Right here at 15.5 as I would go around. It's pretty close to the edge there, and I can manipulate it just a little bit so that it gets right in that 1/4 inch. But we actually want about 3/4 of an inch. So that one is 15.25. So 16 is going to give us a 1/2. So 16.25 I think will give us the right spacing that we need. We want about 3/4 of an inch. So this is the 1/2, and it'll sew right in the middle of the channel there, and that's the perfect spacing that we want. So we'll line it up right there, and we're just going to sew right to the edge of this. That'll be the boundary for this part of the design. And let's tack that and get our threads secured right there in that ditch. So I'll just get my needle seated right there and put a few tacking stitches right there. And I don't need these threads. These can just kind of get tossed back there. They're not going to bother us. They're not in our way. There we go. So we're right here on the edge of the curve, and this is a 1/2 inch, and now we're right in the middle of the channel. This is where I would put the pin in, because what it's going to do, it's going to let me have a really smooth curve. Before, we're trying to ditch, so we're following the existing curve, and here, this is going to make sure that the curve is very smooth, that we don't have any weird wonky stitching. It's just going to follow right along the template and make everything really pretty. So I'm going to watch my finger right there on the edge. And then again, don't sew out of the channel. Shift your template. Okay, so let me show you what we have now that we've got this pretty channel, and I'm going to put my deadly dangerous pin away so that he's not going to stab anybody. All right, and we can actually just cut this and bring this up. So we'll just show you the channel so you can see it. I love how that looks. And so this is ditched right here, and now we've got this channel right here. And what I'm going to do is just put my little circles in there. Now, if I'm connecting down here and I'm going back out to another curve, I would start in the center and I'd work out to where it didn't matter. So like I just fill from this center edge inside. Because we're on the edge, I don't need to worry about that. I can just fill as many circles as I can, and then I'll just look however many can fit right in that 1/4 inch. So if I want to put a partial in there, I can put a partial, but I don't need to if I don't want to. And then I could, if you have artisan curves, you could actually do circles with your artisan curves and put them right on the pin. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to use the regular circle and just manipulate it. And this should fit right in there. So I'm just going to start maybe right there. I'll try to put my needle right there, and I'm just going to put pearls all along this channel as I go. So let me see if I can use my lines to get right in the middle, and I want to be right in the ditch. So we'll try to pick up our thread right in the black, right in that seam. I guess I'll scoot this out so we can get our thread. Okay, I think that looks in the middle, so let's put the circle in first before we set the needle into position. I just wanted to make sure that I could pick him up correctly and get that needle right in place. So because the circle's 1.5 times around, I'm not too worried about tying off, because as soon as we do it one more time, it's already going to tie it off. It'll sew over itself. But I do want to get these threads out of my way. There's a lot of threads today. Okay, so I'm looking inside. I'm going to bring you in a little closer to my between the lines. Because it has those channel markings, as I sew it, I'm also going to look for this little circle echo to fit right in the channel. I don't have a straight channel, so I have to manipulate a little bit in order to get this to fit. So then you're going to stop right in the middle, but you have to rotate it a little bit, and I'm looking for the lines on each side. So right there, as I look in, see where the black has some space? I can see the same amount of space on the right side where the white is, and then I'll kind of adjust this part of the circle to be right in the middle. Now, when we do circles like this, they may overlap. So what you're going to do is you'll sew until you touch, and then you'll go backwards. You're not going to just cut into the other circle. Like right here, we'll touch, and then we'll come back. Because if we tried to fit the whole thing, circles only have one point of tangent. And so when we're going on the curve, it's really important that we don't just keep going, because then we'll end up sewing right through the other circle that we just completed. So we're just trying to balance this right in that channel and trying to put it right in the middle evenly as much as possible. So right there you can hear there's a lot of extra seams right there where it's pressed. We were just going right through this seam and right through the seam where this is connected as well. So that's why it has that kind of thunky sound, and that's pretty common. That's pretty, you're normally going to hear that for sure. So touch and come back. and we'll just keep on going. So I'm going to adjust the quilt, make sure that it'll move with me because a lot of it is now off of my sew steady table. So I'm going to bring it back up here and we'll just keep going. So this is only one little segment of this. So somebody did say that this is going to take a long time to quilt. Yes, if I'm going to custom quilt it in the way that I'm showing you right now, where I'm making essentially all of these different designs, plus I'm probably going to do some free motion as well with this, yes, it's going to take time. It's not going to be quilted up in 5 minutes. If I wanted to quilt it up in 5 minutes, I would quilt it with a Baptist fan, and I would just do same regular design all the way across the quilt, or clamshells maybe, that's classic as well, and I wouldn't be worrying about custom, right? But I want it to look pretty. I spent a lot of time making it, and I want it to look enhanced, and I've got fancy batting in there that's a little thicker so the quilting will show. So, you know, those are design choices for you. If you just want it quilted fast, then you have lots of other design options that you can do that would quilt up much more quickly. So feel free to make those choices, whichever you think is the best and most appropriate. The other piece is, when you're quilting, you know, I think it's hard to, people put quilts out on the internet and they say, oh, I don't know what to quilt, you know, do you have some ideas? I think that's useful. I mean, I think that's reasonable to do. But the problem with it is, make sure that you recognize that your skill set is not necessarily someone else's. So when you put that out there, you know, it's important for you to maybe identify, hey, I'm a beginning quilter, I'm experienced, but I don't have a lot of time, you know, I want something simple, or I'm willing to do something more complicated. That way people know that maybe you're willing to do a little bit more or you're not. And that way you can get some advice that will fit you a little better, that's more suited, you know, for whatever your skill level is, because it's not always, you don't always get that advice that is very helpful for you. So I'll just put the last one in. We're real close to the end, and I think we can just put a partial in there because he'll be right off of the edge. All right, and then I'll take it out and we'll share that with you. I love pearls on this, and it's going to look completely awesome. And I think it's really classy, and it's going to accentuate the circles quite a bit. So let me cut that, and then we'll show you what it looks like. All right. So let's cut these threads also. We already ditched these. I'm stitched right to the edge there with them, so. Threads everywhere, I guess. For some reason, they're just like long threads all over the place. All right, here we go. Doesn't that look so pretty? I love that. Absolutely love that. And especially with wedding ring quilts, I just think that that's really elegant. And so if this had the same arc kind of coming in, like if this was this white one and it had this arc, what I would do is I would make a line right in the middle, and I would start the circle in the center, and this arc could go that way and this arc could go that way, and then you wouldn't have a crossover right here. This circle in the middle would be the start of this directional curve and that directional curve also. And I didn't do it here because this is a change in color, but if this was white and the curve came out like that, then I would do both. I would make this one come out like that, but I'm going to do something different on this black area, and it's going to be a little bit of a different option, so that's why I did not connect it. But if I have white and the curves come in, I'm just going to continue that as much as I can. So for example, on this, I do want to put that little echo right in here with the little pearls. So any of these little white sections, I'm going to ditch right against the curve, and then I'm going to put the white echo and I'll put the pearls right across that. So just love how that looks. I feel very excited about that. Inside of this circle, this is a big space, and it's got this change of color right there. So what I'm going to do for all three of these, and I'm not too sure, I think I might just put that pearl echo in there and put some straight lines to the center. But these three sections will all have the same design, but this will have a little bit of a darker thread, and these will have the white thread. So these will all have the same design that will kind of emphasize that this is a circle, and then that's how I'll kind of keep this design unified. And then you can see right out here, let's see if we can just come out a little bit more so you can see that this has the white almost going all the way around the circle. I'm going to just come out a little bit so we can pull the quilt forward. Hang on. Right there. So you see that the white right here, this will be able to almost go all the way around. So, you know, I'll make the pearl echo essentially come all the way out to here. And then again, we're doing something different with these black areas. Maybe we are, I'm not sure. I'm still thinking about it. But I think that that'll be nice to have that curve go all the way around here, even out into this space. What's going to happen in all of this negative space is I'm going to have some kind of feather that will weave through the negative space. And then these curvatures right here with the pearls will kind of create a little narrowing and a little hourglass, and the feather will just weave through that space. So that's my plan so far. So we've shown the 3 different rulers that you could use. And of course, when I said different circles, I mean you could use whatever size. This circle is a 1/2 inch. So this little opening. So that's why I wanted to make my channel just a little bit bigger than a 1/2 inch. Because if you'll see, I did not want to have this part touching the circle. I want the circle to float in the middle. So this is about 3/4 of an inch. It's not fully 1/4 on each side. It's about half. So that's why these pearls look like they are not smashed in there. They're just not going to be crowded or anything like that. And then I'll have some other feather that is going to be inside of all of the melons right there. So what we had today is not just showing the templates, but the goal is people are always asking for us to share a real quilt. So this is a real quilt. It's kind of bulky, you know, it's not tiny, but it's not giant either. You know, it's not a king size quilt, obviously, but it's got a lot of body to it, and it's got some weight. So we actually had to manipulate the templates. We had to think about where our ditch was. We also auditioned for size. So we auditioned both the inside, the melon arc, and the outer arc. And then by using those extended circles on quilts, I was able to get a perfect shape arc out here for the echo. So this was 16.5, in case anybody was wondering. And then this is my 1/2 inch pearl, and I used the between the lines. And we used it with this little circle forward because we wanted to project where the next circle is going because it's on the curve. If we were doing it on a straight line, this aligns with the circle behind, but we wanted to sort of project this future circle into the center of the channel. So we were using this little echo reference in the front instead of in the back. And then just to reiterate, in the one where we had pretty much the complete arc in the center, what we did is we used 2 different Spinifex. They're the same shape, but they're different sizes. And that allowed us to really maximize this space right here and have this narrow out right here. So we got a really pretty crossover and intersections right there in the front. And we could even do something like we could micro quilt this part so that this lifts up and this recedes and then this part puffs up. So if you felt comfortable putting a little fill in these spaces right here, that's how we're going to get that 3-dimensionality for this area of the quilt, which I really think is going to look amazing. So this is something I'm probably going to continue working on, and I'll share updates for it until it's finished. But I just wanted to share that. So where we are right now, let me grab a couple of additional things. We have one more thing to talk about, and I want to share it with you. So I have a class that's coming up pretty soon, and I did a few samples just to showcase how awesome and powerful my new tools are. They're not new, I've had them before, but these are our snowflakes, and our Sew Steady team is putting together a Christmas in July, and we've got some really great options for you. So I'm really excited to share that one of the ideas that we shared with So Steady about making a modification to the snowflake, they did it. So when you come to my class, I will share that cool innovation that you have the option to have. But this is the snowflake template, and I thought it turned out so awesome. I still have some markings, but look at the center, and this is all done with the snowflake template. And let me show you what else. I used hologram thread. This is from Wonderfill. It's very touchy thread, but it looks ridiculously amazing. It's very twisty, right? So it's a little tricky to work with, but we'll be sharing some ideas for if you want to use a tricky thread. Maybe metallic or something like that. We'll just share some different ideas for things that can make these behave a little better. We're going to share all of the different snowflakes. There's 8 different ones. This is the large and the small onion top, I guess you could say. And so this is one of the designs right there. And then this one is the one that's kind of like a leaf. And I think I've improved my own skill. I've gotten some new ideas for how to use them. So the topic here is what happens if we put a decorative center, and it doesn't have to be a circle. You could even use a small Spinifex and have that be your decorative center, and then you could still use some of the things that we're going to share. And here is just an echo. I ran out of bobbin thread and I just didn't have time to finish this particular one, but you can see how cool that's going to look right there. And then of course you could put fills in the center if you ever wanted to, or echo it. So that's another one. And this is my lollipop snowflake, which I love. And this really helps see the value of the new innovation that they have for the snowflakes. So you really can see these beautiful snowflake swirls that we did. And so this one is using both the diamond and the circle. And you can use any different size. We'll talk about that. So we're also going to feature the the crosshair square 6-point. And the reason that we're highlighting that for the snowflake class is because snowflakes are 6-sided. I don't know if you knew that. I recently found that out. I had no idea. But that is their natural crystalline formation. They're always in that hexagon formation. So we're going to be sharing some ideas. And then I have one last design to share. And this one uses the larger diamond and the large onion top. And it's not quite finished. This part is sewn, but we're going to be sharing how you can make this little embellishment right there if you want to. And then one of the things that I like about the snowflakes is I want them to be a little bit thicker, not like just a skinny line. So I'm going to show you how you can work this sort of an echo on there to create a little bit more fullness and density with your snowflake. And look what else. Ta-da! So maybe some template too. Just for clarity, this is not the decorative thread ruler foot unless I get one, because the one that I have is low shank and I'm not using that machine anymore. So I'll have to get the high shank decorative thread ruler foot if we're going to showcase that. But other than that, that's coming up very soon. That is on July 8th. And I put the sign up link up in the post header. And what you can do is the way that these Christmas events are working is many shops have signed up to support it and sponsor it. And you can choose which shop that is nearest to you to receive the discounts from that shop. So if you don't designate the shop, then you don't necessarily get the discounts. You're working with those shops that are sponsoring this event. So please go ahead and sign up if you're interested. We're going to be featuring just several different things that you can do with those snowflakes, and we've got a lot of great options that have been added with the new tools that they've created for it. So we're showcasing that on the 8th, and more is coming up. I had the pleasure of working with her about 2 weeks ago, and when we were doing our last event in Kansas City together, and that was our first time to work together, and she is fabulous, super creative. Her work is amazing, and so she'll be coming on, I think on Monday, and she'll be talking about her special event for the Christmas program. The old snowflakes will still be able to be used. I used mine, obviously. It's not that we're getting rid of them. You don't have to buy some new ones. Do you guys want to see? I'll give you a sneak peek. Shh, don't tell anybody. Here is my sneak peek, right? Okay, I'll have to show you. This is snowflake number 5, right? This is the key. But wait a minute, that key is really long. What's different about this key? So I see somebody is telling me that the link isn't working. So after the broadcast, I'll go check it out and make sure I have the correct link. But I believe that's the link that Stacy gave me, so I'll double check it. So don't worry about it for the moment. Just give me a few minutes to check into it. I can't fix it while we're on air. So notice that this says Spin-E-Fex snowflake number 5. So I'm going to actually find my snowflake number 5, and I'm going to just give you a sneak peek of why this is so awesome. Okay, I don't know which one 5 is. I have to actually look at the numbers. Number 2, number 8, number 7, number 3. It's none of those. Okay, we're going to keep going. I see it, number 5. Okay. So I don't know if anybody took my snowflake class before, but I had some challenges myself, actually. I felt like it wasn't working as well as I wanted, and I recommended maybe we did some adjustments, and look at their adjustment. Can you see that? This is so powerful, and wait till you see all the workarounds that we've got for you in store. They are going to make using your snowflakes so much easier. Sometimes I can, I don't even need any tape. I'm just going to show you how you're going to be able to manipulate these and get the most beautiful designs with them. And you can just go to town, make all the snowflakes you want. So I use the white fabric with the blue metallic, the blue hologram thread. But of course you guys can do any kind of Christmas fabric, red, whatever. I just like the kind of icy blue look. So my squares are about 11.5. We're going to try to keep them all around the 9.5. We're not going to make big giant snowflakes, but you can always take the information in the class and then you can use that and you can make whatever size you want. So I'm going to actually make my individual ones and embellish them, and maybe free motion quilt to put some texture in there. And then afterwards, I'm just going to bind them and I'm going to put them up on the wall for Christmas. That's what I'm going to do. They also would make great Christmas pillows, right? If you have like some kind of something like this, you could just put your backing on there and you can just serge around it and make an envelope, and then you would have an awesome snowflake pillow, which would also be very cool. So, okay, that's it for today, you guys. I'm starving. So, Linda, I think there is a fee for the class. How much it is, I don't know. I have to look at that again. I know I looked at it, but I couldn't find all the information because I would have to sign up with a store. So let me check that out, and I'll put a little note up at the top when I check the link and make sure that the link is working. So thank you so much for your patience today. I really appreciate that you guys did not mind my 10 minutes. I hope you found the information valuable and really see the value of those extended circles on quilts for some of the different arcs that you might need that are really big. So have a great day, and please share my video. Please like it and share it if you want to. No pressure, but if you think it's good, maybe somebody else will too. Okay? All right. Bye, guys. Have a great day.